Hi, my name's Vero, and welcome to another tip for the day video. And today it's a slightly unstructured video. I'm just going to have a wander around my freighter and just make a few observations on the new freighter building system and what's good, what's bad, and a few things that I've played with just to give people ideas. I think there's a lot of people making specific freighter build videos, but I'm just going to do a general one and just kind of wander around and look. So first of all, I'm not a big fan of these corridors. I mean, they look quite nice. They evoke things like Alien, a very kind of lived-in, realistic look. But they're not quite for me. But there you go. I like that you can still put the boards up, and you've now got different ways we can put the boards up. So we can now put them at a slant or along the edge. Theoretically, we could make them bigger. I don't know if they come out further when we make them bigger. Let's have a little play with that. Like I said, this is going to be a slightly more rambling video than normal. Where are they? They're in that one. Yeah, as they get bigger, they come outwards, which is great. That's a really good idea. So the collision works along with the edges. Turn them into a desk, I suppose. You get it just right. Or I suppose you could turn them into a desk by doing that and then really bringing it out. Like a drawing board angle desk type desk. While we're on this corridor, this is my old freighter build. These were kind of to evoke doors, and they're closed doors because you never really need to go in that room. And this was my sleeping arrangement, like a hidden bed and a trophy room, chair. It's quite basic, but I did this a while back. Why would they hang around in there? They do hang around in odd places. I really like the fact that we've now got people wandering around and they're actually recognizable NPCs from our build. I really don't like the way that they haven't got this right. This keeps moving off center, up and down, sometimes disappears probably through the floor. They need to fix that. Really like the planetary probe. It's about time we can just scan everything all at once so that we're not lost when we go into a new system. I'm sure some explorers won't agree with me on that one. Obviously, glass is brilliant. Love to be able to see things out of my windows at last. I wasn't a big fan of building artificial windows, and just because of the way that you had to make sure you couldn't see certain things. Now we've got roofs on the room, so I love that. Like everybody else, I'm not a fan of the ladders, especially when they broke the ladders. So they're, for those of you that remember, ladders used to have a useful tactic where you could go up them using your thing, and it would, using your rocket, and it would grab on at each level, like it's grabbing on there, and then you could pulse down, dot, 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 and you could go down a level each. And ladders were really functional if you knew the secret to the ladders. Now the secret of ladders doesn't actually seem to work, so that's annoying. I really like these hatches, but if only they opened. Why would they would produce hatches that don't open? I don't know. Really like that we've got like construction parts. I've made this kind of door that you can't get through. I'll give you an idea why that is. These walkways are very nice, and what I did immediately was make a little booth section with each of the NPCs all on walkways, a little bit cyberpunky. And then to add to that cyberpunk feel, put some neon signs up around the doors. And then the idea of this is you can't go that way, and you'll see in a minute. This is a quick bar I mocked up, nothing special. You can combine some of these parts, obviously, so I was messing around with that. And it's quite nice to build a bar on my freighter. I've never actually built a bar on my freighter. Let's turn this off. It can get annoying after a while. I don't think there's anything that technical here that needs any explanation. Oh, the rock shelves. I built a shelving unit, decided that I didn't like the shelving unit, and put rocks on the shelving unit and then deleted the shelving unit. So it's kind of a more weird alien rock shelving. These counters, I'm going to go into those in a minute because there's something interesting about those that's worth knowing. And I designed this so you couldn't get through this way, so you couldn't get behind the bar. I was kind of hoping an NPC might wander up here, but I'm not sure if they can navigate the stairs. And so you just have to be lucky that an NPC is wandering around, which is slightly annoying. Let's just fly over here. Ah, just landed on the hatch. And so the idea is you can get behind the bar this way through the blocked entrance. And again, there's not much here that's kind of technical. This is just thrown together parts. Nothing really even glitched, I don't think. Then I was messing around with walkways. As you may have seen, Beeblebum has a video about how wire glitching is back, which is a very welcome sign. And so you now need to use the short-range teleporter and the teleport cable, but that allows us to start glitching again, which is excellent. And this is just basic adjacency glitching to put these side panels on using partly adjacency glitching from light boxes to light floors and partly universal adjacency glitching the other way, and with the tube lights, positioning light boxes to get the tube lights in so they're nice and clean. And something that might not be immediately obvious, but I'm sure most people have worked out by now, is you can turn the doors inside out so you don't get a barrier across. So let's quickly demonstrate that, just in case you haven't come across that yet. Let's use a corridor. If you put a door on a corridor, and then delete that corridor, so basically this was the outside of the door, but we've placed it on the other way around, then we don't get that barrier, which is pretty good. It gives us some flexibility. And unfortunately, if you delete them, it just leaves them floating, and you can't, I don't believe you can just build off of them, but if you could build off them, that would give a lot more flexibility. And as you can see, I haven't actually done anything with this walkway. I was just experimenting so that it doesn't go anywhere or do anything at the moment. And I might change my build to incorporate things a bit like this. Quite like the look. It's a pity we can't, let's get out build camera. It's a pity we can't illuminate the floors easily. I haven't experimented with glitching between the different wires to see if that's possible. It may be, I don't know for sure. And there's a slight hitch on these floors, there always has been, which is not terrible. The sound effects are great though, and I suppose you could explain that the hitching was to do with our boots stopping us floating away. So we got magnetic boots when we're outside. Justifications are half of fandom as far as I'm concerned. They're quite clean here though. This is just, I believe it was one light box up, and it just sits perfectly so you can just step onto it. And then at the bottom, exactly the same, but there's a slight hitch on this one. So I don't know, maybe it's going to be slightly inconsistent whether you get a hitch on that step. depending on where you're building. You can also offset corridors now. Obviously, you can use the adjacency glitching from a door and position corridors halfway, so you can kind of be a little bit more clever with your designs. What else is there to show here? I suppose while I'm here, I'll quickly look at my old corridor, and this is one thing I really hate, is yet again they have broken the original corridors. These were all nice and rounded so that as you walk down the corridor you could see all of my illuminated signs. And now they've all got hatches or doorways blocking it, which is annoying. And just makes things messy and less smooth, and I wish they'd fix that. I don't know if they will because they're legacy parts now. Not sure if I prefer the old versions of these rooms, but I suppose these fit in better with the new aesthetic. So I'm in two minds as to whether to completely change this corridor to the new method with the new parts. We'll see. Love that we can get short-range teleporters in, although unfortunately they still suffer from a vagary of direction. It's a bit of a hitch there, I'm not sure why. Oh, I seem to have drifted into the floor there for some reason. Is that a hidden hatch? Very odd. Unless you build them directly above each other, that can be a bit of an issue for direction. But I love the fact that they're now on our freighters, which is brilliant and keeps things a lot easier to navigate for practical purposes. I used to have color-coded, what are these called? Mission rooms, I suppose. Used to have color-coded ones, but now they just look messy when you color-code them, so I've had to make them all the same color. Another tip is it's actually worth, if you're really going to grind frigate missions, and at the moment there's a reason to grind frigate missions if you want to try and increase the size of your inventory for your living ships, and that is build up to 7, not just 5. A lot of people think, well, there's no need to build more than 5 because you only get 5 missions at once. But you can actually get up to 7 missions if a mission takes more than 24 hours and a new mission set comes along. You can usually build out another 2 fleets. But I haven't played around with this room much. I did start to mess around with something else I was going to show you. So let's do that now. Where are the... counters. Now the counters are a handy size and snappable. And although the patch notes mention snapped positioning on freighters, they don't seem to have actually implemented that, which is frustrating. And for the time being, until and when they implement that, which maybe they won't, these are quite handy because obviously they snap together. And the only thing you really need to do is position them carefully. And obviously we could use the universal adjacency glitch to do that. So if we position one on the floor here, grab a door, let's just put that there handily. So if we universal adjacency glitch that, no, that's not picked it up. Well, actually, this is a tip. Let's put a door somewhere. Let's copy that one. And we can point out of it to double test our universal adjacency glitch. I'll show you why in a second. So pick that up, and when you're outside, you can more clearly see, if you look at the little menu, place wire is up there. So if you're outside the freighter and you point at the roof of your freighter building area, you can tell much more easily whether you've got the adjacency, you've got the cached version of for the universal adjacency glitch. So now we have that cached. Pick up a door, or we could use a room, and now we have that perfectly positioned. And now, as you can see, that perfectly fits the floor sizes, so that then we can then use that to universally adjacency something else, and it will be perfectly glitched into position. This is along an edge where a wall was, or if we use the universal adjacency for a room, then it would be in the middle, which would be useful for things like positioning if you wanted to be a bit more flexible with your positioning of your corridors, if you wanted to build much cleaner walkways, for instance, and you wanted to have corridors that are not on the set grid. You could use these. And also we have handily not only the half ones, but a change of direction. Of course, the main issue with these is if you delete one, they cascade delete. If we could get rid of that annoying cascade delete, it's one of the few cascades delete still left in the game. If we could get rid of that, we would be really, really flexible with our builds on freighters. There's probably not much more to show you on this one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop across to my Permadeath, and I'll see you there. So here I am on my more pirate-themed Permadeath, and as you can see, I've done a few similar things. I've chucked some neon signs up. I've put some posters up. The posters annoyingly sit just behind this, so you have to put a poster on there first and then put posters on top of the poster, which is slightly frustrating, but it does work. You can just about put images on here, which I quite like. The save points can be put on walls still using the universal adjacency glitch. It does have a gap. You could position them and then put the wall in, I suppose, but I haven't got around to that yet. And when you activate them, they sit nicely against the walls. So, well, no, there's still a gap there. I thought they actually went back a bit. But there you go. This is an example of a color-coded room. I used to have these all color-coded. I haven't moved to these. They just all changed their model, obviously, with the new update. And so I tried to color glitch the rooms that were adjacent to them. And no, that doesn't work either. It just looks a complete color mess. So I'm probably going to change this whole room. But apart from that, I really like that they're all open. You can just look down and see which ones are ready to pick up. And talking about being able to put 7 in and grinding, they've finally put the living ship icon in. And I really am going to be grinding my living frigates to try and max out my living ship. I'm a fan of living ships. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I've always liked them. What is there to show you on here? Okay, outside. I really like the outside space of the freighters. I might not like the indoors as such, but the outdoor space, I like the shapes out here. I like the look of the walkways. I like the fact you can put lights on the doors. I don't like the fact that if you put a light on the outside of a wall, let's do that. I don't like the fact that that isn't powered. That's powered. This is a powered wall. Don't really get that one. I really like these. I do a lot of crafting in this particular save. Sometimes these will seem to go back and revert, and a reload will actually put them back again. So they're a little bit like refiners in that doing a manual reload will sometimes sort them out. And because I jumped over to this save and it was on 1, and then I set up for recording on this save, and now it's on 350. So it's obviously gone back to what it was. And because I do a lot of crafting, then parking these in the relevant system is a great idea for me, and I can then come along and crop a load of radon or nitrogen or whatever I want. I really like the large refiner look, and the general industrial look for these industrial parts, that is quite nice. There's a slight strange thing. Once you're in the room, you can't point upwards onto the thing. You have to think of them as about the level of these panels. So actually point at the panels is probably the easiest way to think of using these large refiners, which I suppose is a functional and kind of sensible way of doing it. It's just, why can't I just point there? It's slightly frustrating. You have to get used to it. But I'm kind of used to that now. I've numbered these. I put the numbers on the floor so that I can keep an eye. I can stand in the middle, access each of them, and then when I pop out, I know which number I'm on. The planter rooms, I really like these planter rooms. I know they're controversial. Some people would prefer to have the old planters in. They want lots and lots of planters altogether. But the big advantage, this is the latest patch, and we actually have a button on the floor. But the big advantage is being able to harvest them all at once. Even better, I can keep my finger on, in this case, X, and I can just run along and harvest a whole line of them, or I could just run around the whole room. And on the experimental patch, which will be coming to a build near you soon, we even have a switch on the wall. So I could, again, do that, run from room to wall, and harvest carbon, which is a brilliant idea. And we don't need the planters then, and makes these rooms pretty efficient. And also a good way of storing carbon if you don't really want to use up inventory space, which is obviously a big thing in this Permadeath save. So excellent, that choice. Really like that idea. Until this patch, which again, if you're having problems with some of the plants not growing, this patch has fixed that. The workaround until you get this patch is to put dividing walls in, because the dividing walls actually allow power to flow to the rooms. I'm going to leave the dividing rooms here because of all of these carbon planters we now have. So that actually is a positive thing to have all these dividing walls. I really need to reposition this guy. He's right in the way of the door. And then, not really related to building. I know some people actually play this game for things other than building. It's crazy. But I really like the fact that you can now feed frigates. So these organic frigates, not the Leviathan, but this is an organic S-class frigate that I picked up recently. In fact, I'll put the glyphs on the screen. This I found in that location. It's an S-class, and interestingly, it has 0 expeditions, which means it could potentially have a lot of growing room. These stats are not that bad for a picked up thing, but you think, well, it's S-class, they should be better. You can send every frigate out on 55 expeditions, and they increase right up to that 55th expedition. So if that still works with living frigates, that's a lot of growth. So that'd be interesting to see. And I love the fact you can feed them and rejig. I think this is a caramel tart setup, so which seems to be trade. So the only thing I've got here is a meaty chunk, Permadeath. Another tip for those people that actually play the game, meaty chunks are really good for restoring core health. So that changes these stats mostly, but it gives us more focus on exploration. Probably this +4 exploration. I'm considering making a larger fleet of these organic vessels and setting them all up as combat, because I mean combat missions in general are not particularly useful. They just bring back cash and cash goods, and if I have them all as living frigates, then that gives me flexibility. I can change them to other things by feeding them, and also hopefully combat will still bring back interesting things for the living ship. I've got the 3 technologies for the living ship, but I'm hoping that all missions have the chance of bringing back the sacks so that you can increase your inventory, which would be great. So that needs more experimenting, but in general, I really love these living frigates, and a lot of them have a lot of fuel requirements. Not really a problem for those of us that have a full freighter build. This is an almost maxed out freighter. I've maxed out the cargo, but I've got a build of what I'm happy with for my modules. I've tucked the matter beam in here. I could theoretically have another module in here, and I haven't got 3 of these on this page yet, but it's almost maxed out, and that means that most of my frigate missions are pretty efficient. A lot of people seem to think that those frigate modules are broken. They are not broken. If you study the stats, look carefully at what they're doing. The reason you think they're broken is because you're sending out large missions and then looking for the difference. Send out small missions, they're not broken. That's really all. No, there's one more thing. It's a bit disappointing that we can no longer build on our bridges. It could have a silver lining. It could mean we're going to get new bridges, and that would be great. I know a lot of people want new bridges, and so stopping us building it could be an indication that that's coming. It would be really nice if we could get different themed bridges for the different races. Maybe even a living freighter bridge. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of a living freighter, but I really want one. It would still be nice to be able to build on the bridge, and we used to be able to do that by standing here. Not here, this is the wrong door. I bet we're all doing that at the moment. We used to be able to do that by standing here, going into the build camera, and then drifting out onto the bridge and building. We can't do that anymore. It's a bit of a shame. I really like these short-range teleporters, and I don't understand why they didn't give us these instead of the short-range teleporters they did give us. These could be more functionally built into the rooms, along with the rest of the design of freighters now. We should have this room. Its main advantage being how directional it is. Always have it so that we can't have a doorway on any of the other sides. And it's fully directional. And maybe if you really wanted to have it in the middle of the room, have these steps so you can tell which way's on and off. And that's always been my main gripe with short-range teleporters. Their directionality is atrocious. They had it really working well at one point where you always stayed in the exact direction you walked into them when you came out of them. And so you just had to position them carefully. And then people said, oh, they didn't want that. And the whole idea went away again. So clear directionality is probably the way to go. They've put it on the bridges. Give them to us, Hello Games. That's what we need, is clear directionality of short-range teleporters. So there you go. A few musings on the new freighter building and a few other random thoughts about freighters and living frigates. I I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologise for not being around, but I've had some life issues. I suffered a bereavement recently, then I got COVID, but these are all excuses. And I hope to be back again soon with a lot more videos. And until then, goodbye for now.